Good evening, San Bernardino. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight for part two. I'm gonna wait for the stream to pick up so that anybody that wants to watch can. So go ahead and jump on. I'll make sure that we are live. I hope you guys are having a good day. It's a warm one. So yay, it tells me I'm live. I'm very excited. Okay, I'm gonna wait. Go ahead and share this if you will. And we'll get started in just a minute or so. This is going to be a great second half. You guys have been reaching out like all night, putting a lot of things together from this claim, which is exactly what I hope that the community would be able to do, given all the information that you have in the claim, plus being able to do your own research. So it's very cool. So hi, Scott. Thank you for joining. Okay. So let's get started. So as we know, we are covering the Steve Carrigan $2.2 million claim, and the assessment is based on the timeline of actual events versus what he is claiming in his claim. Okay, and all of the information that I am presenting tonight has been discussed and obtained through like news articles and Facebook and people's firsthand experiences, my own experiences at meetings, watching the meetings and public records. So everything here you'll be able to find and go out and ask people questions. You'd be surprised what people know and what will tell you. So here we go. This is just a quick recap of where we ended last night. So as of August 28th special meeting, Carrigan claims that in an open session of August 28th San Bernardino City Council meeting, a large group of African-American residents attended. They spoke out against Carrigan's potential appointment as San Bernardino City Manager. 7 of the 10 speakers that spoke out against Carrigan's candidacy are African-American. 1 or more members of the city orchestrated this effort to squash Carrigan's candidacy because Carrigan was not the correct favored race. So again, the people that showed up to speak are highly respected members of our community. And again, Carrigan must not understand that we have a diverse representation down here, that Cheryl Brown was our former assemblywoman, that Ms. Carolyn Tillman sits on our library board, that we have 2 very distinguished congregational pastors that frequently speak at our meetings. Like, just it's unreal that they went down this avenue. But we've seen the race baiting in our city, and we watched what happened even further during the appointment of Montoya. So what actually happened at the meeting is not a single person spoke against Carrigan's race. What every person spoke to was Carrigan's professional record, which was Googled. Like, all you had to do was Steve Carrigan, city manager, and what popped up was his firing from the city of Merced in his short time. What was found was his hiring at the city of Salinas and this statement that he had made, like, this is where I want to be, this is where I'm going to stay. That's what people spoke to, and that's what's in the minutes. In that meeting, Councilwoman Calvin makes a motion after the public comments to immediately end the recruitment process due to a violation of confidentiality and ethics and the sabotage of a candidate that led to their withdrawal. So that was what had transpired when another candidate had pulled out, and the only person that wanted to say anything about it was Councilwoman Calvin. Councilman Reynoso seconds her, and then the 4 on the left vote no. No, we're not going to close down this recruitment. No, we're not going to stop anything because someone violated confidentiality, someone violated closed session and ethics and sabotaged another candidate. No, we're not going to just stop everything here because, well, what purpose would that serve, right? Their candidate is still in the running. Carrigan claims that after this meeting, at the same time, in Carrigan's case, after his name was revealed publicly by the city without Carrigan's authorization, Carrigan contacted Frank Rojas requesting that his name be removed from consideration to be the next city manager. Carrigan also sent an email to the Salinas City Council and to all Salinas City employees stating that after much consideration, Salinas is the place for me. So, at the same time, here again, so my name's out there. I don't want to continue with this recruitment. A bunch of Black people came and they spoke out against me. But also Frank Rojas called me and said that 3 of the council members wanted a different candidate, although the other candidate had been sabotaged. And when Carrigan pressed Rojas for more information, Rojas told Carrigan, this is about race. Carrigan is white. 2 of the 3 council members who did not vote to extend an employment offer to Carrigan are African American, and they wanted the other candidate who is African American. In addition to the foregoing information, other confidential closed session information was released in violation of the Brown Act. So 2 things, right? My name's out there. I can't carry on after much consideration. Please pull my name from this. And I want to stay in Salinas. But also, Frank says, well, you weren't going to get the job anyways because you're white. And they don't want a white guy. Okay, that's the claims. This is exactly what he's claiming. So according to his claim, because this is where the date stops for quite a while, according to what Carrigan is claiming, he withdraws as of the August 28th, 2023 meeting, right? His name's out there. Black people showed up. Withdraw. Well, actually, that's not accurate at all. That's not even close to the truth. So what we have is that the meeting goes by of August 28th. Nothing is reported to the community. We don't hear anything. A post comes out from Mr. Michael Davis, and it says, don't let the lack of reporting fool you. Mayor Tran, council members Theodore Sanchez, Sandra Ibarra, Juan Figueroa, and Fred Charette did not care what the community had to say and are still moving forward with negotiating a new contract for the city manager with Carrigan from Salinas. They even went out and bragged about it. 5 elected officials plotted together to make this move. Their plan was exposed, and they still went through with it. The law has been broken. This is our reality. They must be held accountable. So that's what we hear. Now, and people in the community, myself as well, Fred was very adamant. Yeah, just 10 people showed up. 10 people out of all the people in the city. That's not enough. That's not enough for us to stop what we're doing. So he validated that it didn't matter how many people had come and asked, for the best candidate to be selected, to not choose someone that had been previously fired for withholding public documents from their own bosses and the community. Fred was like, whatever, not enough of you. The Sentinel, Friday, September 29th, further solidifies the fact that the following Monday, August 28th, after this meeting where nothing's reported to the public, Carrigan made a wider disclosure to all of the employees at Salinas City Hall that he was on the verge of departing as their boss. So here we are. According to him, he's pulled out. People know who I am. There's Black people in San Bernardino. I can't do this. But that's not true. After that meeting where we, the public, were not informed, he went back to Salinas and told people, yeah, I'm still going to move forward. Fred told the community, only 10 of you showed up. That's not going to work. August 30th, the Monterey County Weekly posts a news article. It says Salinas City Manager Steve Carrigan is a finalist for the city manager job in San Bernardino. Right? Okay, well, shoot, his name's in the paper. At this moment, they reach out to Carrigan and they reference the email that he sent his department heads on August 26th, telling them he was a finalist for this position. And they also speak to the Salinas mayor. Salinas Mayor Kimberly Craig says she and her council colleagues and the city staff are prepared for whatever the outcome of San Bernardino's process is. She says, personally, I'll never fault an individual for advancing their career, Craig says. If hired, he has the opportunity to have a bigger salary in a bigger city that deals with the same issues we're grappling with here in Salinas. I think San Bernardino will find he's enthusiastic and capable and will benefit from that. So, he's still a candidate. He's publicly known. His mayor and council are fully aware that he is still a finalist. And they're supportive. This is also, just get to throw this in there, this is also the night that I do my first live on what's happening in this recruitment, because there's a lot of issues, just a lot of lack of transparency. And here is this article coming out up north when we're being told there's no reportable action. So very concerning, and something that ends up coming out anyways. Here's the thing, it always ends up coming out, right? Well, then we have the meeting of September 6th. And on the agenda is agency design representatives or designated representatives, Frank Rojas, Kaufman Associate, Director of Human Resources, Susie Soren, for the unrepresented employee, the city manager. And then the appointment of a city manager. Sonia Carvalho comes out and reports at a closed session that the city manager has been selected and that the council has unanimously voted to put out a statement saying, as such, this person's been selected. They didn't name specifically who, and the contract will be voted on publicly October 4th because the second meeting in September had been canceled. So here we are. September 7th, the Sun comes out, reports that an employment agreement with the city council, their preferred candidate is expected to be on the October 4th agenda. Teddy Sanchez says this was probably the best batch of candidates we've ever had, but declined to say who was offered the gig. He said, in fact, we had such a high quality of candidates applying for city manager in our city, shows our reputation is changing, that this is a city on the upswing opposed to a city that has plateaued or is heading in the wrong direction. The fact that we had such high caliber candidates seriously consider changing the direction of their lives by coming to the city of San Bernardino to work is telling. Yes, a previously fired city manager who withheld financial documents, and then you went with a four-time fired city manager who was fired for cause, withheld documents, stole money. Yeah, you're really on the upswing there, Teddy. In fact, I think you're matching energy with the level of people that you have tried to hire and are currently employing. So there's that quote. Next, the Sentinel comes out on September 8th. This time, Carrigan is named as the person chosen. So San Bernardino will welcome Salinas City Manager Steve Carrigan, who is currently serving as Salinas's top administrator as its city manager on October 4th. So I know you're thinking this. You're like, but wait, the claim said that he was outed. The claim said that the Black council members didn't want him. How is it that he was chosen? Because his timeline is ridiculously false. It doesn't fall in line with the actual truth. That's why. So what this means is as of September of 2023, as of that date, September 6th, Carrigan has now twice accepted this job, because if you remember, around August 21st of that other special meeting, around the time that the first candidate was sabotaged, Thomas Rice reached out to him and they negotiated the terms of his contract and he accepted. So he thought he was getting the hired August 28th. Didn't happen for him, but he went and told people he still felt confident that it was coming in the next meeting. And then September 6th, it's recorded. Yeah, an offer has been made and we're going to move forward with solidifying this contract October 4th. Does that all make sense? I hope so. Because what this tells you is this guy has literally never gotten out of the recruitment. He's been known, but he's never pulled away. He's still pressed forward. He kept telling everybody, I'm in it. He sent out emails. The press was covering it. He was good. The way that the papers have reported this is that this was a unanimous selection of Carrigan. It says this week at the council meeting, September 6th meeting, during the council's closed session, a unanimous decision to make a full offer of employment to Carrigan was made, with Calvin and Reynoso bowing to the reality of Carrigan's inevitable selection. After the council emerged from that closed session, City Attorney Sonia Carvalho announced an offer of employment that has been made, but she did not identify Carrigan as a selection. So here's the thing. If this was a unanimous decision of the council, then what did Frank Rojas mean if he called Carrigan and told him 3 of the people don't want you and he pulls out over it? Because according to this, it was unanimous. So that route makes 0 sense. How can you blame the Black council members if this was a unanimous decision? I want you to take that as path A, okay? Because there are varying reports. The report is that the council unanimously voted to put out that statement, but the record has continually shown that it has been Helen Tran, Teddy Sanchez, Fred Charette, Sandra Ibarra, and Juan Figueroa, who have been in favor of Carrigan. And at the meeting of August 28th, it was Councilwoman Calvin, Councilman Reynoso, and Alexander who weren't even wanting to continue on with this recruitment. So at the very least, if it wasn't unanimous, it had to have been. It had to have been, because you have to have at least 5 votes, a majority, including the mayor, of a 5-3 selection for Carrigan. And that is as of September 6th, 2023. Hope you're all with me. 22 days later, September 28th, 2023, a report comes out of Monterey County Weekly. And it says Salinas City Manager Steve Carrigan withdraws application from San Bernardino, announcing plans to stay. This is 22 days after the September 6th meeting. And he says, or the report says, they say love is a powerful force, and it is one force keeping Salinas City Manager Steve Carrigan in Salinas. The city's top staffer was a finalist for the same position in the city of San Bernardino. And on Thursday, September 28th, announced in an email to all city employees that he has withdrawn his name from consideration for the job in Southern California. Over the past few weeks, since September 6th, when he was officially voted to get the job, I have taken time to think about what's important to me from a personal and a professional standpoint. And I've decided that Salinas is the best place for me, Carrigan wrote. I cannot see myself working anywhere else. Although that's the promise he made when they hired him. In Salinas, we've made a lot of progress on major issues like homelessness, affordable housing, crime, and infrastructure, and I want to be here to continue that momentum. But the personal life part factors in as well. As the Weekly reported in August, Carrigan is in a relationship with Salinas City Elementary School Superintendent Rebecca Andre. In his email to staff on Thursday, Carrigan wrote, on a personal note, I have met someone in Salinas that I'm crazy about. Today's announcement comes 1 month after Carrigan notified the Salinas City Council that he was a finalist for a job elsewhere. So, make this clear. His mayor and council knew, and he remained employed in that city for a month while he was in the waiting to have his contract voted on October 4th in the city of San Bernardino. And on September 28th, he pulls out. This is all public, super public, right? Super, super, super public. So again, right? The claim says Carrigan, after his name was revealed publicly by the city without Carrigan's authorization, Carrigan contacted Rojas requesting. That's a lie. His name had been out for over a month. It's in the paper. What happens is, October 3rd comes. October of 2023. Salinas City Council votes unanimously to fire City Manager Steve Carrigan. It says during a special meeting on October 4th, but it is October 3rd, Salinas City Council voted to terminate City Manager Steve Carrigan's contract. The council deliberated for 2 hours in closed session, then announced their unanimous vote 6-0 to fire Carrigan. The council also voted to appoint Assistant City Manager Jim Pia as interim city manager. Pia's worked for the city for 30 years and was an interim city manager after the previous city manager, Ray Corpez, retired. The personnel transitions are effective immediately. They said, we don't anticipate any disruption whatsoever in city resources or city services. The city will move forward. We're prepared for it, Mayor Kimberly Craig said. The same mayor that was in support of his transition. So, Carrigan was terminated, and I want to note this. He will receive 1 year salary per the terms of his contract. Now, remember, he's suing us for the last 2 years of his contract, and he's getting paid for one of them. So he's trying to get over us on this money. I want to make sure we're clear on Salinas. So he says that we cost him his job, that Salinas fired him. Well, for over a month, Steve Carrigan had prepared to leave this city. He had openly acknowledged that he was a finalist. He told people after meetings that, yes, I am leaving. His council and mayor were supportive of his decision in trying to pursue other opportunities for himself. And they held him in that position all the way up until he decided, you know what, no, I'm going to stay here. And they decided for him, no, you're not. We've made all these arrangements. We have prepared a city for a transition. And you know what? You don't get to just decide when you're coming and going. And that would be my position. I can't say that's exactly what they've decided, but I mean, just logical sense, right? An employee tells you, I'm leaving, I'm leaving, I'm leaving. There's an announcement made publicly, October 4th. Is going to be the day that they openly vote on the contract. And then he pulls out September 28th and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess we're going to keep you. Doesn't work that way at all. Thank you, Paula. I'm glad this makes sense. So the next day, October 4th, our council meeting day, the appointment of the city manager is put on there and nothing is reported. Nothing comes out of closed session. Now, the next day, October 5th, Carrigan claims that on Thursday, October 5th, 2023, the day after the San Bernardino City Council met in closed session, Carrigan received a call from Ms. Susie Soren. Soren is a San Bernardino Human Resources Director. Referring to the closed session of August 4th, Soren told Carrigan, Steve, there was a lot of talk last night about you. And there was a lot of talk about how we cost you your job. Soren was referring to the city's interference that resulted in Carrigan being terminated as Salinas city manager. For those of you in the back, I want to make this super clear what this means. So to make it clear, Susie Soren, the director of human resources of the city of San Bernardino, right here where we live, who we pay, who has been named in this claim, because we just read what the claim is, since November 30th, by the way, they've had this claim, who works as a top administrator for our city, called Carrigan herself and told him that we are responsible for what happened to him and accepted liability for it. She said, we cost you your job. The HR director of the city of San Bernardino, the risk management director. And now remember, just last meeting, we had to give human resources an additional $7 million because of the amount of lawsuits that we are paying in this city. And this lady in this claim called him and said, oh yeah, it's our fault. It's our fault. Super want to be clear about that paragraph. 5 days later, on Friday, oh no, I'm sorry. This is between 1 to 4 days later, actually. So on October 6th, Carrigan receives a call from a recruiter, Gary Phillips, from Bob Murray and Associates. Phillips called to ask Carrigan if he would be interested in being the interim city manager for Pacific Grove, which is up north. Phillips said that Carrigan was a good candidate because he knows the issues in Monterey, has 10 years of experience as a city manager, and lives 30 minutes from Pacific Grove. Other candidates from outside the region would have to commute or rent an apartment, and since this position of interim city manager Pacific Grove only pays a salary and no benefits, living nearby is a real plus. 4 days later, Phillips calls to tell Carrigan that Phillips met with the Pacific Grove City Council and they chose not to select Carrigan as the interim city manager. Phillips explained to Carrigan that Pacific Grove City Council said that they knew of Carrigan and they think he's a good guy, but they were unwilling to move forward with Carrigan because his circumstances were too political. The reference was to the actions of the city toward Carrigan. Now let's think about this super logically. A day after Susie Soren accepts liability for whatever has happened to Carrigan, he gets a call and this says from somebody who obviously knows he's been fired and says, hey, you know what? I can probably get you a job up at Pacific Grove. It's not too far. You know, let's try and get you in. And he's like, yeah, sure. So then the city council of Pacific Grove would look at the city of San Bernardino and blame us when Carrigan pulled out of the recruitment and said he was in love with Salinas and his girlfriend and never wanted to leave. They wouldn't reference that, you know what, taking a city manager who was fired 7 days ago from his city might be weird and we just don't want that heat on us. No, Philip, Gary, I guess that's our fault. How in the world do you even draw these conclusions? How? Like, does that even make sense? So everything's super quiet after that. So you know, after October 10th, we don't hear anything else in this claim. We're done. Well, November 17th comes, and the Sentinel posts SB San Bernardino wants to throw journalists in jail. And if you haven't read this, I go find this article. This is just a clip of it because it's, you know, very detailed. And it caught attention because it says 2 of the prime movers in the city's effort to throw journalists in jail are Mayor Helen Tran and City Attorney Sonia Carvalho. Tran is particularly sensitive to any suggestions of incompetence or inefficiency in her administration. Prior to her successful run for mayor in 2022, Tran had been a San Bernardino city employee, having risen to the rank of human resources director under former mayor John Valdivia. Valdivia as mayor triggered a slew of city departures based on a myriad examples of alleged inappropriate behavior, which included graft and bribery taking, in which he involved city employees, maltreatment, mistreatment, and allegedly wrongful termination of employees who were unwilling to engage in ongoing graft on the mayor's behalf. Valdivia's pressuring of city employees to engage in sexual relations with him, his request of city employees to make special accommodations with regard to city policy or actions favorable to his campaign donors, and his request that the city improperly remunerate him for his expenses unrelated to his function as mayor, including airline tickets, hotel accommodations, and meals. When employees sought the protection of the city's Human Resources Division from the treatment that Valdivia was doing because of their unwillingness to accommodate him, according to many of those caught in that circumstances, Tran did not have the strength of character to stand up for them and essentially allowed Valdivia to prevail in his battle of wills with them. When some of those employees sued over what had occurred, Tran's reaction in siding with Valdivia became a factor in some of those lawsuits. As consequence, Tran bailed on San Bernardino, moving into the position of Human Resources Director in West Covina when that position became available. Now, as mayor, based on her unwillingness to stand up against the stronger-willed and more dominant Valdivia when she was occupied in a higher ranking position in his administration, Tran is struggling to convince city staff, her council colleagues, and her constituents that her willingness to allow Valdivia to bully those over whom he was lording is not a lasting character flaw, now that she is in the ultimate position of authority in San Bernardino as mayor. She is looking to prove to others that she is as assertive as Valdivia, and that under her, quote unquote, San Bernardino is not going to be effed with. So, in all of everything that's happened, the Sentinel reports that Helen wants to blame journalists and throw them in jail for Carrigan outing himself and publicly being a part of a recruitment for over a month. This is what comes out November 17th. Again, SB Sentinel, you can pull up all of these articles. Well, here's the thing. In looking at all this and wondering why would Helen Tran be that angry over Carrigan's pulling out? What possible issue other than not getting the city manager? So we start asking questions. We start wondering what's happening. Well, remember I told you there's varying reports about the vote count, that it wasn't unanimous, that truly it had always been these five: Helen, Teddy, Fred, Sandra, and Juan. Now, it only takes a block of 5 of the elected officials out of 8 to hire a city manager. And Carrigan knew this. Everybody knows this. And if this was the vote count, Carrigan accepted the terms on September 6th, knowing that it was a 5-3 vote. Well, now things are coming out as this report's come out and what's happening. And so here's an alleged report that is being circulated, that Helen Tran held a fundraiser for herself on September 25th. And allegedly that day, Helen received political pushback from her backers for supporting a previously fired city manager, who was Carrigan. And that hiring him, like if she was to go forward with this, wouldn't be good for her politically. So from that, it's also alleged that she withdrew her vote. And by withdrawing her vote, that would mean that Carrigan would not have had the 5 votes he needed October 4th. Well, if he doesn't have the 5 votes that he needs, and he's not going to be hired, well, it's that they let him know that, hey, you're not going to have this job come October 4th. And that's possibly what led to his falling back in love with Salinas just a couple days after this event. And so as this is catching up and catching speed, because, people are trying to figure out why in the world the city is out here trying to become culpable for something, people are starting to talk. So I'm going to stay vigilant on this, but I'm going to tell you what, this theory makes a lot more sense than anything else that I've heard, than it being about Black people, that it being about his name being public, because for 35 days he was publicly known as the final candidate. For 22 days after accepting the offer, he pulled out. 6 days before the council finals vote to approve him. It totally makes sense that if someone out of that majority of 5, quite possibly Helen Tran, pulled her vote, they knew they couldn't get him hired here. There was a lot of political pressure. And this really even makes more sense given the fact that there was such a rush to get Montoya in here. And a lot of these 5 elected officials wouldn't talk to anybody and went from a one-time fired guy to a 4-time fired guy. So this is the other theory surrounding a 5-3 vote of Carrigan. And it's a good theory. It's a good theory. Then it comes November 30th, and Carrigan files a claim with the city of San Bernardino. I want to note this because today, as I was doing my research, hello, Google. Google's an amazing thing. A new report came out today that I thought was interesting because it highlighted something different in Carrigan's story now, as opposed to his filing November 30th. And this is from KSBW, Channel 8. And it says, in August of 2023, Steve Carrigan was the top choice for city manager job in San Bernardino. But the offer was rescinded not long after Salinas City Council voted to fire him. So this is a whole change. And this came out today at 12:18. So what he's saying is that Salinas fired him and then we chose not to hire him. That is, again, a completely false statement and timeline and anything, because as we just looked, his own Monterey County newspaper reported his email and story of September 28th. He was fired October 3rd, and our meeting was October 4th. Now, does this mean that he was fired from Salinas and he still didn't have the votes for that day? Well, that would make the other theory more plausible, wouldn't it? Like, hey, sorry, you lost your job. Yeah, I still can't bring you on because I can't take that political heat. Interesting. Interesting. So the claim is out. So now what? I want you guys to ask yourself these questions from everything that we've talked about yesterday and today. What did Charles Montoya or City Attorney Sonia Carvalho do with this information when it was received November 30th? And what happens to a director in the city of San Bernardino who calls someone and gives out information violating closed session and then is named directly in a claim? Take a minute. I'll give you like 10 seconds. Think about what would be the consequence of something like that you've known since November? What would you do? What would our legal obligation be, and what would be our ethical obligation? Well, Sonia did nothing, and Montoya gave Susie a $90,000 taxpayer-funded promotion. Susie Soren, the director of human resources at the time, called Steve Carrigan, according to his claim, and put the city directly in front of the train of a $2.2 million lawsuit. And for her violating closed session that our city attorney has known about this claim since November 30th, She was promoted to deputy city manager at a $90,000 a year thank you from the taxpayers. That's what you get for violating closed session. And that's what you get from our city attorney, who keeps making millions of dollars every time we get sued. And that's what Montoya gave the HR director that helped him get hired. And wow, good for him that two people had to get out of his way for him to even get a job after a year and a half. Isn't that something? What a reward. You would reward the HR director for violating city policy? You would give a promotion to somebody? That's interesting. Sonia, Montoya, Susie, Teddy, Fred, Juan, Sandra, Attorney General's office, DA, California State Bar. That's a very interesting repercussion for violating closed session. Ask yourself this question. What did Charles Montoya or the city attorney Sonia Carvalho do with this information when it was received November 30th regarding the claim about Bob Hall and Associates? What happens to a city contractor who is claimed in November to have called a candidate and gave out information blaming our city for his potential wage loss? And then that person was named directly in a claim along with his company. Ask yourself, what do you guys think happens to someone who puts us directly in front of liability? That's a contractor. Well, again, Sonia Carvalho did nothing. And Montoya gave them a $35,000 contract on behalf of the taxpayers to run the recruitment for the city planner, building official, and Department of Public Works director. They made money off of us. And this was just approved. This was like Bob Hall and Associates, there's nothing happening to them, but we're getting sued. I want you to ask yourself another question. What did the residents of the city of San Bernardino get from what every single person listed in that claim did? We got hit with a $2.2 million lawsuit. That is coming out of our budget. That is coming out of our hard-earned dollars. That's what we got. Susie got a promotion. Bob Hall got a contract. Frank Rojas, ain't even heard from Frank Rojas. They haven't even talked to Frank Rojas. Called over Coffin Associates. No one got a thing to say. But San Bernardino, $2,231,250. Hey, you know what? That's half the budget that they cut when they cut paving those streets. You know how they love to go out there and be like, we've dedicated $8.8 million to paving streets. They had to cut $5 million off the top of that because they couldn't afford it. But you know what? They're going to have money for this $2.2 million, right? We've always got money for lawsuits. BB&K always has money to be made for litigating everything. Susie Soren got a whole raise, $90,000 a year. So we have this entire Swiss cheese claim that has nothing but holes in it because his timeline does not match up to anything that actually happened, which is all public record, very accessible. So with all of this available information, San Bernardino, and with Frank Rojas of Coffin Associates, the director, former director, now deputy city manager, Susie Soren being named, and Gary Phillips of Bob Hall and Associates being individually named, Who do you think the city is trying to blame for all this? Give me another guess. You're not gonna get it, but after everything that has been talked about in these last 2 nights, after everything that is openly and available to our city attorney, city manager, and council, the corrupt left side of the council are trying to blame and move forward with a censure of Councilwoman Calvin. They want to say that she violated closed session when August 18th, 2023, she made a motion to reopen the recruitment to expand the pool of applicants, even when the quote unquote African American candidate was still there. She still wasn't satisfied and wanted to look at other candidates. Even after August 28th, when she made a motion to immediately end the recruitment process because there had been a violation of confidentiality. There was a violation of ethics and a sabotage of a candidate that led to their withdrawal. And she openly acknowledged it and said, we have to do something about it. We cannot continue. And these corrupt four voted her down each time. That is the conclusion that our council has drawn. And they want to forward their stuff off to the district attorney's office. Well, Fred apparently has been out talking for over a month. And this is, I guess, not anything that should shock anybody, because we know what San Bernardino does, and Carrigan put it in his claim. We know what San Bernardino does to people they don't like and who they want to hurt. And so Angel Rojo posted over a week ago and said, well, for weeks now, Charette has been saying that he and Sanchez are putting a report together to put out that will crush you, being me, this is on my page, and Calvin for Carrigan's filing. Charette said they will do whatever it takes not to see me elected in November. Charette, got pressed when nothing happened last meeting, and he said they had to fix the report and make sure that I'm on it. So he says that he saw they voted last night to put out the report, but nothing has come out, and asked where this report is. So this report, this investigation, whatever they're doing, it's out. Well, what it looks like is they have not been able to put it out because they have to fix it. They have to change it. So until we get it, I don't know what to tell you guys. But this whole thing is absolutely unreal, criminal, unethical, everything. The claim in itself is false. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, everything that I've put together, this video and all the documents and the public records, I'm going to forward it to the Public Integrity Unit and the grand jury, which is our right. And I'm going to make sure that the California State Bar looks into Sonia Carvalho and Thomas Rice. It is time to fight for our city. You know, I've talked before about what BB&K allowed in the city of Bell. And nothing's changed. The morally corruptness is unreal. And what's crazy is Sonia Carvalho has dreams of becoming an elected official out where she lives. With this nonsense, with everything that you allow, no. The city attorney's office is not to keep putting us in the face of danger. They're not supposed to just allow council members to fix reports and to trump up charges and not look at the claim for what it is. Susie Soren is named in your claim. Frank Rojas is named in your claim. And the guy from Bob Hall and Associates, Gary Phillips, is named in your claim. Everything else that Carrigan claims that a bunch of Black people spoke up and were disparaging him is false, because your own record shows it is. Your claim that the Black council members didn't support you so you couldn't have a job is false, because you had a majority of 5 people, regardless if the 3 didn't want you or not. And the fact that you say that you called and pulled yourself over to recruitment because you were publicly acknowledged is absolutely false, because you were publicly acknowledged for 35 days. You had the job for 22. You pulled out 6 days before the council was to vote on your contract. Why don't you guys just tell the truth? Because the lie doesn't work with the facts. So just tell the truth. What really happened? Because that, I think, is a far more interesting story than this fake one you're trying to create, the narrative and the report that you believe that you have to put out, because there's no facts other than what's being presented. So San Bernardino, look, thank you guys so much. Please stay vigilant. Share this, get it out. Get this out, because this is the opportunity to make sure, come to the meetings. I'm going to do the agenda review. Like, we need to be here. And those of you that don't normally speak, those of you that don't normally show up, this is what is allowed to happen because our community doesn't show up. This is why I can't get out of the fight for San Bernardino, because we can't survive like this. We can't just pay millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, any type of money to people who just file claims against our city fraudulently. And that's what this is a fraudulent claim. And we have a fraudulent council who wants to stand behind it because they think they're going to hurt Councilwoman Calvin. Unreal. Unreal. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. And as I come up with more, I will definitely post and follow up with you. So I will be doing a live this weekend, because in all of this, the city was hit with a new lawsuit from the previous developers, RDICO, which is, I guess, SBDC or something like downtown. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's come out in their claim. They specifically named Rob Field and Nathan Freeman and the city, which is what also includes Theodore Sanchez. And we're going to look at that in conjunction with other reports that the city council decided they wanted to put out versus the truth. Because again, the truth always comes out, San Bernardino. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Sithmal, Hope, Ron, Paula, Sophia. Sorry, I'm trying to look at everybody's name. I hope I don't miss anybody. Tim, thank you guys so much for joining. And Scott, I can't do this without you. So keep going, San Bernardino, and have a great night.